Hayden Locke, President and CEO of Marimaca Copper, currently in Chile for the kickoff meeting with our engineering partners, Ausenco, and we just put out a big announcement on some metallurgical work that we've been doing.
You did, and that's why I'm phoning. We're looking at these sort of advanced copper stores that we're trying to work out who's going to be able to get out there. Metallurgical work, important. What can you tell us about yours?
Well, we've done a lot of metallurgical work. It's one of the key risks, as I have said many times on our calls, to any mining project. It's resource risk and metallurgical risk really underpins the business case. This is our sixth phase of metallurgical testing, so we've done an enormous amount, really getting prepared for the feasibility study and then moving into production. This announcement is really important for us because it addresses several key areas of risk, one of which is acid consumption. And what came out of it is a material reduction in acid consumption relative to what we previously assumed in our studies. We think that'll have a material impact and improvement on our project.
Okay, but in terms of cost, in terms of effect on the ecology of the region, I mean, how do you measure that?
Yeah, well, not really the effect on the ecology because, it's a sealed system and there's no acid going out into the environment. But from a business perspective, to give you a rough idea, we estimate, depending on acid price, that acid makes up about 30 to 40% of our total operating cost. If you remember in our previous studies, we were about $1.30, $1.40 a pound all in sustaining cost. So if we look at the acid consumption reduction from 40 kilos a tonne that was assumed in our previous studies to 30 kilos a tonne, potentially 25% reduction, that could be quite material in terms of the overall business. So it's a pretty significant improvement. And we think there's further upside because that testing program was focused on the rocks that have the highest acid consumption profile. So the rest of our metallurgical subzones are actually lower acid consuming again. So we think that when we get to the definitive feasibility study, there's quite a bit of upside on our OPEX, which is really important for us, obviously, in terms of our return on invested capital profile.
Well, absolutely. And one of the other things that you kind of confirmed is actually the recovery rates. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think the other important aspect is, if you're optimizing your acid consumption, there can be changes in recovery profile. And what came out of this test work program is a confirmation that the previous assumptions we used, 75% of total copper, has been confirmed under the optimized acid consumption, the optimized operating scenario. So, we're confirming that we're going to recover the same amount of copper, but using significantly less acid. It's really going to be, we think, quite a material improvement in the project. I think the other aspect of it that's really important to me, and I made the note of it in the announcement, is this test work has really identified that there is further operational flexibility in case, what happened in 2021 and 2022 with the sudden spike in food as a result of the Ukraine war meant that acid prices spiked enormously. And that happens over time. It's something that we can't control. So what we're focused on as a business is improving our resiliency to those external shocks and making sure that if it occurs, we can preserve our margin. And what this test work showed is we can further reduce that acid consumption with only minimal reduction in our copper recoveries, which is really, really good for underpinning our business case.
Right. And the other thing one of the other things you looked at note here is, and it's going to hold other companies up, gold companies up in the Atacama Desert up, which is water. You've done this test with recycled seawater. First of all, what is recycled seawater and why use it in the test case?
Yeah, well, Marimaca is located in an extremely dry area of the world, the Atacama Desert, and water stress is a big part of the one of the social issues that mining companies face in that part of the world. So we made a decision to use seawater in all of our test work and our process. It's the assumption that we're going to use seawater in all of our process work. You have two choices to source seawater. One, you can build your own pipeline and your own water intake. That carries a higher degree of permitting risk. So we elected to partner with one of the local power generation businesses, which already extract seawater to cool their electrical generation capacity. Now, that obviously creates a environmental issue when they have to then pump back the water that has been gone through a large industrial plant. So we are buying water directly from those industrial plants rather than them having to discharge it back into the ocean. So effectively, we're using an industrial waste product as the seawater for our process. So it has several benefits. One, it's a lot cheaper for us to get that water from them because they've already got it in their system. And two, we're improving their environmental footprint by taking what would be a waste stream going back out into the ocean.
Right, and obviously all of this is about de-risking and removing barriers and obstacles in the future. What else does this I think you said sixth, right? You said your sixth phase metallurgical program. Will there be more in terms of, again, trying to understand how you maybe optimize and recover and drive those efficiencies? Or does it tell you everything you need to know?
No, there's always more to be done. I mean, there is a limit as to how much money you want to spend on it. So we're planning on doing one final phase, which will take all of the remaining, all of the information from the previous 6 phases into our design case for our feasibility study, what we will actually intend to build for a confirmatory program, which will then form part of our bankable feasibility study. It's an important aspect for financiers that they can see that you have tested the actual operating conditions that you're going to take into your feasibility study and eventually your construction for the financing package. So there's one more phase to go. I mean, you could keep doing it until the end of the earth, but there's a trade-off between risk and reward there, and we feel like we're very close to the end of that. We're getting to the flattening of the curve, I guess, where risk has been significantly diminished, and the cost of doing more test work is not necessarily going to be a good use of our dollars at this stage.
Right. Okay. So, and just for the sake of people, for people perhaps coming at this new, remind me again, you're in the DFS process. What's the timing of that? And again, what are those sort of baby steps along the way that you need to kind of deliver to be able to actually deliver the DFS at the end of the process?
Yeah, so we're here in Chile, or I'm here in Chile now to kick off with our engineering partner Ausenco tomorrow for both our permit engineering and our definitive feasibility study. So the permit engineering will be first because that is the critical part for the project, and we're targeting to submit our applications in the middle of next year. And then the definitive feasibility study will be delivered, I would expect, at least the numbers internally for us, 3 to 4 months after that. And then we're targeting having a 43101 report released to the market in early 2025. And then once we've got our permit applications in, then we can move into the all-important financing discussions and have a bit more clarity on timeline.
Right, okay. And how's the market looking to you out there? So confident?
In terms of copper or in terms of equity markets?
Well, equity markets is a whole other conversation. I'm talking about the copper markets and their reactions to it. Obviously, a bit of slowing down on the EV production from North American OEMs, same in Europe, same out of China. Infrastructure programs waiting to sort of see if they kind of kick off. Demand, supply fundamentals, I guess, is where I was going with that conversation.
Yeah, look, I think there's always been a lot of talk that there are several larger projects that are coming to the end of their construction and then going into commissioning. So there's quite a few big projects down here in Latin America that are in the process of the commissioning and ramp up. So there is new supply coming on. I have heard from multiple sources that we should be concerned about demand from copper, but the last data points that I've seen out of China were that they imported a record amount of copper in Q3 of last year. In fact, while the Western OEMs and EV manufacturers are seeing a significant slowdown in their uptake of EVs, actually the Chinese market share is growing and Chinese car sales is growing, which is remarkable. There is definitely a concern about the Chinese property industry. That's going to take a while to, I think, work out. But the rest of China appears, at least on the data that I've seen, to be pretty strong at the moment. I think there's definitely risk. And so that's going to probably create a buying opportunity in my view, because, I still think the long-term fundamentals are firmly intact.
Hayden, because you better get on and have that meeting with your team and Ausenco. Good luck with that. We'll see you soon.
Thanks very much.